So we're trying a new way today, because normally we have our inspirational speaker stands up and tells her story, but we're going to do it different today. I've known Rebecca for 2 years maybe?
Longer, I think.
Or longer. It's longer. It is longer.
Feels longer.
Yeah, it feels longer. And that's all I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to let her tell you the rest. But she's a beautiful person. That's the other thing that I'm going to tell you. Sometimes. So I'm just going to ask Rebecca a series of questions that I've kind of thought about, that I think that she'll answer really well. And then at the end of it, if you feel there's anything that I've missed, I don't think you'll mind, do you, answering any of those subsequent questions? So just first of all, Rebecca, thanks for doing this. I think it's really good when people step out and they want to share their story, because I think there's absolutely so much benefit in hearing other people's stories, because, as you know, my saying is that your story is not for you. Your story is for other people that are listening, so I think that that's really important, and thank you for doing that. So just first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are. Who's Rebecca?
Okay. So I'm 42 years old. I'm the mother of a 12-year-old boy. I live in Knutsford. I live with my partner Paul, who's a singer. And I guess a big part of who I am at the moment, because I'm 2 years into having my own business, is the founder and director of Saving Grace Events. So we run what I would call spectacular events for fun, people-driven, innovative companies who understand really the importance of engaging either their customers or their employees. We also work with quite a few charities. We work with the Christie, we work with Beechwood, who are a local charity to here in Stockport. And we do some private events as and when they drop in, kind of more high-end private events than the smaller things. We've done some ridiculous things in that space as well. So that's me.
Right, thank you very much. So, like many women, why did you want to start your own business? What was your driver?
That's such a big question. So I think I'd always wanted to have my own business. I knew it was always in me, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. Looking back, I think the signs were always there. So I am the serial party organiser. People have told me for years and years and years that I should just go into events, and I don't know why I resisted it for so long. The first time I organised an event, I was 7 years old, so I organised a surprise party for my parents obviously without them knowing. Phoned up all the relatives and their friends, went to the corner shop, spent my pocket money on food, really rubbish food like angel cake and all that kind of stuff, and put on a party for some random reason. So it was obviously always in me to be in events. The trigger for starting my own business, I think, it's funny, I was talking to my dad about this actually. So I think it stemmed from the previous role when I worked for Virgin Media, and I was responsible for setting up their customer experience function, so designing and delivering the right experience. It was a brand new function, so I was able to go in there, design what it looked like, and go to the extent of actually sitting down with my team and saying, okay, what are our vision and what are our values? What's our mission as a team? And that coupled with the values of Virgin Media as a company, which really resonated with me. I think the next time I went to do another role, A, I'd already said to myself, this is the last time I'm ever going to work for anybody. But B, when I worked for that company, the values of that company were so at odds with who I was personally. I think I subconsciously made a decision that actually I don't want to work in an environment where I'm playing by somebody else's rules or adhering to somebody else's values. I want to do something that's my vision, that plays to my values. The other trigger, as you know, Jo, was that just before that, I'd had breast cancer. So when I came back from that whole experience, I just literally was like, I just do not want to do this. This is not what I want for my life. Life is too short. And that was the ultimate catalyst to setting up my own business.
Yeah. And I think that being in alignment of your values in a business, I think a lot of people will be able to actually relate to that it really grates on your soul, and it's really hard work, isn't it? Yeah. And then to come back from breast cancer knowing that you've had something that's been life-changing,
Yeah.
and that you actually, it's time for action.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you mentioned something earlier about, you know, you come to life when you're being creative, but being in the previous role that you were in, where you were at a desk, was not you.
Yeah.
And I think that importance of doing something that feeds your soul is, you know, immeasurable.
Bring something that brings you to life.
Yeah.
So we know that you've had challenges, and we know that business brings challenges. Well, can you tell us something about a challenge that you faced, that you've overcome, and how you did that?
Oh God.
Tell us about a challenge.
Oh, I mean, in the last 5 years, I've had so many challenges. You know, I've had breast cancer, I've lost my mum, I've got divorced, set my own business up. So I guess, oh God, and all sorts of other things that you know about. Cancer's become a bit of a running theme within my family and my life over the last 5 years. But I think, going back to your question about overcoming a challenge, I don't think I think I'd probably handle that in the same way regardless of what the challenge is. So I probably don't need to talk about a specific challenge. But for me, it's about managing, being resilient. I think that's definitely a strength of mine. And to do that, it's about managing your mindset and finding what helps you be resilient. And I'm quite a proactive person, so I will literally search. It could be the Business Growth Hub. So we've talked before about the fact that from a business point of view, I've done the Business Growth Hub, I've done the NatWest Accelerator Programme, I've done the People Plus, and anything else I could get my hands on. But I think whatever the challenge is, I will find the resources that enable me to be resilient. I'm naturally the kind of person that could be on the floor, but then I'll dust myself off and go, right, how can I get over this? And you know, I've had some real downtimes and some real challenges, but the way that I get over that is just to find the resources that will help me, and that could be meditating, listening to podcasts, which was a massive thing for me at one time, anything that will kind of lift you out of it, and allow you to get that inspiration back and move forward.
Yeah, and I will vouch that Rebecca is very, very resilient, and that is one, like you say, that is one of your strengths, isn't it? Your key strengths.
It can also be really annoying. Because sometimes people think I don't take things seriously. It was a big thing with my ex-husband. Something would happen and he'd be like, you just don't take it seriously. And I do take things seriously, but I just don't see the point in dwelling in the negative, because it just doesn't help.
Yeah, doesn't serve a purpose.
I was listening to something this weekend from one of the top coaches in the world, and he was saying resilience is one of the top things for success.
Absolutely. So you touched lightly there on kind of meditation and other things that you do. What other kind of, how do you relax? Because we know that having your own business is really stressful. Or can be.
I'm looking at Becca. She doesn't. Becca works for me.
No, I know she doesn't. That's why I asked the question.
This is one of my goals moving forward. So I do need to relax more. How do I relax is family time, time with my friends, time at the gym. That's how I try to relax. Don't switch. I don't think anybody who has their own business switches off, really, do they, that much? And I'm a mum, and I'm a single mum in effect, really, even though I live with Paul and not with Zach's dad, so there isn't a lot of time to relax. But I am very good at noticing when it's getting too much and kicking into action. So I probably don't manage it very well on an ongoing basis, but I know the signs and the triggers of when my emotional or my mental health is going downhill. Yeah, because that's actually, I was going to ask you, how do you look after your well-being, because we know that actually has a massive impact on your productivity, on your ability to communicate effectively and just to do things. So it's really just about acknowledging that is a challenge, I guess. Yeah, and also I've got really good people around me, people like you, that I can reach out to. So I think having a good network and having that 1 or 2 or 3 people that you can talk to is really, really important as well. And groups like this, where you can share your challenges and see that other people have got exactly the same challenges as you do, because I think especially coming from a corporate world, when everybody's got their game face on, everybody thinks everyone else has got it all sorted when actually they haven't. So I love this whole movement of people talking about things more and sharing things with each other, because I'm quite an open person anyway. But yeah, I think just having that infrastructure that's there when things do get a bit too much.
So that's a nice way to lead into the highlights of your business. What's changed since you started?
Everything. So basically, I set a business up and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just was like, I want to set a business up. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know. I just know I want to have a business. So I initially thought the best route to go down would be to think about things that people struggle with. So I thought, well, what do I struggle with as a working mum? Well, if someone could come to work and do my nails in work, that would really enhance my life, and I wouldn't have to drag my then 8-year-old son to the nail place on a Saturday. So I kind of went from there, and I came up with this idea of a virtual concierge for busy working people, which was a great idea. And I think if you had a load of money behind you, you could definitely make it work, and you could definitely monetize it, and you could build an amazing app, etc., etc. So it was services direct to the workplace. But the reality of it was quite difficult, because the angle on it was employee engagement, to get businesses to commit to it, to fund it. So it ended up being employee funded, which is essentially a business to consumer proposition, and I just knew that it was just, I was pushing water uphill and it just didn't feel right. So I went through an evolution really of working out what I wanted to do. Events was part of the proposition, and I think not last November, the November before, last November, I suddenly thought to myself, what are you doing? The only thing in your business that's generated any revenue is events. Everyone's telling you to do events, you're good at doing events, and I have been doing events for about 8 or 9 years, so I've been doing charity events. Just do events. And it did take me a little bit of time to get my head around that. But I think that's another thing that's really important from a success point of view, being able to actually just say that isn't working, and I haven't got it right, and how do I change it, or how do I do something different to make it successful, and not being too proud to do that, which I never have been. And then since then it's all become a lot clearer, and it just clicks and it feels right, and I feel like it's what I should have always been doing. Which my 7-year-old self could have told me.
That's your 7-year-old self, what you could have been doing then, But, I think the fact that you are doing it and you haven't given up, and that you're now kind of, I guess, living in your purpose, makes it all feel right and worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a big believer in practicing gratitude, and setting goals and celebrating what you've got and what you've done, and that naturally that will bring more of it. And it has. I mean, the revenue that we generated in this last quarter is more than I generated all of the previous year. So financially it's really paying off, but I'm also in a much happier place, and much more passionate about what I'm doing.
So what would your 3 top business or life tips be to everybody in the room?
Oh my God, I wrote them down, but they're over my book. Yeah.
This one? This book?
Yeah. It's hard to make a list, isn't it?
I'm only asking for 3.
I know. That's what I mean. It's hard to make a list of 3
It is,
out of all the things.
Because I thought, you've said some really good ones already.
Yeah. Well, they're in the summary really. So, managing your mindset and your resilience for me is a massive thing, because it really, being a startup business can really drag you down. And we've had times where we've like, oh, why are we even doing this? So managing your mindset and resilience, and also being resilient in terms of your approach and flexing and changing and all that kind of stuff. And then that kind of links into the next one about being your authentic self and trusting your gut as well. Because the amount of times that I was people, even my own partner, Paul's like, you're going to have to get a job. You're going to have to get a job. And I'm like, I'm not getting a job, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. But you do question yourself. So being authentic to yourself, believing in yourself, and trusting your own gut, because at the end of the day it's your story to live or die by, nobody else's. And then the practicing gratitude thing, you know, I've got a real thing about if things are going downhill, I think, when was the last time I wrote my gratitude book? And there does seem to be a pattern, but yeah, just being grateful and celebrating successes. I went to another fantastic organisation, Women's Leadership Association, and they, one of the things that they did in the session was she said, right, I want you to just sit there and go through, she said, tell me everything that's gone wrong, and everyone was like, yep. And she's like, right, I want you to sit there and think about your successes, and everyone's like, what? And then we did that, and it was such an amazing exercise, and I couldn't believe how many successes, even small things like, you know, moving into our first office, you know, Becca coming to work with me, you know, there's so many things that you don't even think about, because, well, me personally, I don't stop to think about them, because I'm always thinking about what I haven't done, and trying to move forward and not reflecting on what's gone well. So yeah, celebration and gratitude for what you've got.
So they're really good tips that we can all learn a lot from. And my final question from me is, what book have you read that's made a big impact on your life?
My favourite book is What I Know For Sure, the Oprah Winfrey one. I love Oprah Winfrey, but that book, I read it on holiday and it just made me so happy. I've literally bought it for everyone I know, shared it with everybody that I know. And I think some of the things she says tie into some of these things actually. But it's all about, you know, the things that have happened to her in her life and what's that's taught her and what she now knows for sure. And they're all great lessons.
Thank you very much. That was really nice.
No,
I didn't make you cry.
Thank you.